At the beginning of Christianity, Gnostic heretics and kindred exchanged information and blood, creating the Cainite Heresy, the belief that Cain was the true Messiah, Christ was the second Cain, and that the Cainites are his angels on earth, opposing the wicked demiurge, the God of the Old Testament. The Inquisition burned the heresy to its roots in the 15th century, but roots can grow back, watered by enough blood. The antinomianism of the Anarch Revolt and the millenarianism of Gehenna Rising fertilized the heresy in the last century. Vampires who use the heresy to subvert human faiths, and Cainites who truly believe in their divine mission evangelize the heresy throughout the Anarch circles. Welcome, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and this is our world of darkness. And today is Metaplot Monday, where we are going to go through the ins and outs of the overarching metaplot and how they can actually interact in not only your games, but your character building skills in general. Today we're going to be going after the Cainite Heresy Loresheet, which in my book is on page 384. Now, the Cainite Heresy was always something that was touched on in Dark Age books. You don't really think of that much in the modern Knights, but with the questionable status, we'll say, of the Sword of Cain, and the disarray of the Camarilla, and the rebranding of the followers of Set into the ministry, it's not hard to believe that a group that would be calling themselves the Cainite Heresy would call themselves up to strength once more. And the reason I say that is because no one trusts the ministry. And for good reason. Regardless of whether or not they are using their faith to restructure the Anarchs into a more faithful-based organization, using the stories of Loki, Prometheus, even Cain himself, there are going to be those others who prefer a more purist, although Gnostic version of the legends. And if you are not familiar with the Cainite Heresy, they believe that God blessed Cain. At least that was the old thought, was that God did not curse Cain with immortality, curse him with vampirism. He blessed him to be the one to spread his word throughout the world. Now, my first introduction to hearing anything about the Cainite Heresy was in the video game Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, where when infiltrating, or I should say sieging, the Cappadocians' church, Haven, you find that Garanol, the elder of the clan Cappadocian, is a member of the Cainite Heresy, and he believes that Cain himself was blessed and enlightened to become a Cainite, or to become a vampire. I guess you wouldn't really call Cain a Cainite now, would you? That's like calling Christ a Christian. Doesn't really fit. But how can you integrate the Cainite Heresy into your books? Well, or into your chronicle. And well, it's stated straight out that the Anarchs, with their believe what you want mentality, are seeing a surge in the heresy throughout their domains. That could make many people very nervous. From barons to individual kindred, it doesn't matter. The fact is, you're going to have a clear line on what do you believe. And this new player, this old flame of Gnostic view being pushed back into kindred society could very well cause a very interesting rift in political agenda when it comes to the way that cities are run. Now, I do believe that there were portions of the core book that also state that the Cainite Heresy is beginning to weasel its way into Camarilla domains. A prince who believes in the Cainite Heresy would be a pretty interesting thing to run into. What exactly would that mean? Would he hold the traditions of Cain to a stronger, more strict way of following his own religious viewpoints? But putting that to the side for right now, at least, we have to consider the fact of what does this lore sheet give to our players? And looking at it, there are 5 potential points, just like every other lore sheet. The first one being, let he who hath understanding. So for 1 point in your backgrounds to a lore sheet, you can get, the storyteller will give you 1 clue, freely to understand, investigate, or detect the heresy's actions or plans, now or in previous centuries. You can use this lore once per story. I like this because it also gives a little bit of an archaeological bend to it. You may just have lore to a debunked faction of the Cainite Heresy. And that's interesting because when you're dealing with vampires, when you're dealing with creatures who just live, who will continue living unless they are made to not live any longer, things of their past could come up. What if you found out that a elder who has not succumbed to the beckoning as of yet is using old Cainite Heresy rites to stop the beckoning from actually affecting him? And in that case, would it be useful to spread that knowledge to others? This level 1 lore sheet opens up the possibilities of having intrigue placed into the game and moral decisions when you could be talking about perhaps an ancient diablerie rite or just the use of kindred blood in general, because the Cainite Heresy is not an accepted faction any longer. It was a heresy, as it was Gnostic kindred. When you're talking about creatures that live for as long as they do and have powers the way that they do, having beliefs that are that far out of the norm can cause a disruption. So moving on to 2. 2. Hand of the Heresy. Take a total of 3 dots from among allies, herd, mala, or retainers to represent your role in the city's heretical deaconates. For example, if you took herd of 1 and mala of 2, you might bless a small cult of human worshippers and have a renowned scholar of the heresy as your teacher. You also have the dark secret flaw for heresy in some domains. The dark secret flaw is obvious. It's because it is not an accepted belief structure within kindred society. And where I do believe, anarch-wise, that whatever you want to believe, you should be able to believe. But once it becomes dangerous for other kindred, you have a small herd, you have a small congregation of human followers. That is a risk to the masquerade. However, I can understand why it might come in handy to have humans who are willing to give up their blood. Perhaps as a tithe type situation. Maybe once a month the humans have to bleed into a chalice due to the fact that Cain, the first murderer, was in fact the first Messiah, and to spill blood is an act of worship. Could go farther, could go darker. Perhaps your herd provides you with blood from something precious of theirs. Maybe it's not theirs at all. Guess that would really depend on how you run your church, now wouldn't it? Because at this too, you are in fact a member of the priesthood, the deaconate of the Cainite Heresy. 3, Counter-Inquisition. You can smell true faith on a human. If you need to test to do so, your pool is resolve plus your highest rating in Cainite Heresy. You might also oppose the heresy and instead use this gift to know who to trust. Perhaps you were a member of the Cainite Heresy in the past and you've escaped. Like a terrifying cult that you've been able to set yourself free on, but they were able to teach you how to smell true faith in an individual. How to root out those individuals who could very well be a danger to the heresy. People with true faith damage, or at least have the capabilities of damaging, Cainites. But it also says you don't actually have to be a member of the heresy to have this ability, and that's what I was getting at with the whole maybe you escaped. Knowing who to trust. That really could go one way or the other depending on your character. If you smell true faith, you know you can't go near them. Or you might be able to figure out who exactly you can if you're running a personal redemption plotline and you're trying to find maybe more new age fashion in escaping your kindred condition. Hell, Thin Bloods. There's rumor that Thin Bloods might be able to go back to being human. This might assist in that. Now, this one caught my attention. Number 4 is the Red Celebrant. You know the rituals and the specific dosages to induce the Red Pentecost in human congregation. A kind of ecstatic religious vision of the frenzy. During the Red Pentecost, humans act according to their worst natures. You can produce enough herbs and fungi for one ceremony per story. The Red Ceremony requires a hunger check and may trigger frenzy in kindred participants. Well, that tells me that it has to do something with blood. But the ability, or the ability to at least once in a story create the ingredients needed to basically have a unholy communion, to give humans the ability to sense what it is to be supernatural for just a small amount can be intoxicating. Having this ability, I can understand being a very interesting way to draw in more congregation. When humans give up their inhibitions, that can lead to some dark places. And I think the Red Celebrant might very well come in handy for those individuals who want to wholeheartedly play a character who is embracing the Cainite Heresy. Moving along, we have the 5th, which is the one named in prophecy. This one, STs out there, storytellers, you must be very, very careful. You need to make sure that no more than one person takes this in a chronicle. Not in a story, in a chronicle. This is a disgustingly overpowered thing that should not be taken lightly. You are a linchpin of the heresy's plans. Perhaps they consider you an avatar of Cain. You possess the only copy of the testimony of Pantaleon, or your vitae is the only effective sacrifice to Laubadolf. I cannot pronounce that. Laubadolf. I believe that is proper. Lal Dab Elf. Lal Dab Elf. To propitiate or distract the demiurge. So the god of the Old Testament. Every informed member of the heresy, and many who simply want to carry favor with the anarchs, know your role. Once per story, you can use this fact to dictate the winner of a social conflict. If you can give a plausible reason for the outcome, you're considered almost as an apostate. Almost as if you are taking on an evocation of Cain himself, or an invocation of Cain himself. The individual who takes this power has the ability to sway a conversation, to sway a social debate, one way or the other. Noting that the Cainite Heresy has power within the Anarch movement. Or they're going to use you as a bargaining chip to get it. It's interesting, and I'm sure storytellers out there will think of a plethora of reasons to actually use something like that. But not too many messiahs in the playing field. I'm very interested I'd like to hear back from you. I do know that some people are actually watching these. And those of you who do have anything to say on the Cainite Heresy, please drop a comment. I want to know exactly how you're using this in your games. Is your game set as the Cainite Heresy? The entire Cainite Heresy? Is it a looming threat in the background? Is a beacon of hope to younger kindred? It could really, really be. There's no true reason to put it one way or the other. Are these your saviors, or do they lead to damnation? The Cainite Heresy is definitely something I plan on using in my storylines. But I will be allowing the players to decide when that happens. It doesn't take too long. Now, with that, I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness, and I would like to thank you for joining me on this Metaplot Monday. And we will continue down the information given to us in Loresheets next Monday as we investigate Karna and everything she has to offer, to the way that the Tremere have evolved in 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade. Good evening.